Do you want to try to do it and do you have a list of how it happened, or are you just going to address things more randomly?
I think I'm just going to address things more randomly.
Cool.
All right, so we're recording. What's up, guys? It's Jared and Tana here talking about sports. Why? Because we're quarantined and we have nothing better to do.
Exactly. It's been a sad few weeks with no sports, no NBA, no March Madness. Luckily today, free agency began as normal, and it gave me something to look at.
Do you think the NFL did the right thing by continuing with free agency?
I do, because it's not like an in-person event. There's no audience. There's no group of people that are really at risk from this. It's something that should just go on because it keeps people's lives normal in some way, shape, or form. And there is a schedule to uphold, and the NFL season isn't really at danger of, being delayed at this time. Hopefully not, and because they start later in the year. So I'm fine with it. I saw some people complaining that they should delay it, but I just don't really see what they would have gained. What do you think?
Yeah, continue with it. I mean, these people can fly on private planes, especially the people that go first in free agency, like the A-list professional athletes. They don't need physicals. So literally, like someone like Tom Brady, if he wanted to talk to someone, he can take his private plane by himself and have nobody around him except for the pilot, of course. Go to wherever he needs to go, talk to whoever he needs to talk to in a room wherever they need to be, where there's only two people, and they'll be fine. And plus,
a ton of it is being done over like Skype or Zoom or web conferencing now anyway. So I'm totally fine with it.
As it well should be. There's no point. Like you said, Brady can't Skype with someone. Of course he can. Plus, it gives me the distraction because I've had so much anxiety about coronavirus, as all of us had. It's really nice to now be refocused to having anxiety about where Tom Brady will play next year. It's just like a nice reminder, puts everything in perspective.
Yeah, instead of just watching CNN today and looking at the stock market, I was able to mix in looking at Twitter for, free agency signings. So it gave me something else to do.
All right, so the big one today is obviously the trade between the Houston Texans and the Arizona Cardinals. So the Texans traded away their wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best in the NFL, and a fourth-round draft pick. And the Arizona gave up running back David Johnson, a second-round pick, and a 2021 fourth-round pick. So my question to you, Tanner, Tolbert, is this the worst trade that you've ever heard in professional sports?
It is the worst trade I can remember. It truly is. So when the news broke, I remember seeing the news about David Johnson being on the move first. I was like, wow, I'm shocked that someone even took on his salary. I thought it was going to be a salary dump. Some team gives up, a seventh rounder, and Arizona just wants to cut ties with them. That's where I honestly thought this was going. Then the news broke that it was the Texans. I was like, whatever. I'm sure it was a late round pick. If they want to take a chance on him, fine. Their backfield isn't that great. They've got Duke Johnson, not a lot else under contract right now. But then when I saw what they gave up and that DeAndre Hopkins was involved, I was at a complete loss for words. It's the worst trade I've ever seen. They couldn't even get a first-round pick back for him. It's shocking on so many levels because DeAndre Hopkins is under a team-friendly contract too. He's making, a decent amount of money, but it's nothing that's going to break the bank. It's a huge steal for the Cardinals. I think with Kyler Murray entering his second year, it's a great move for them as they can try to be competitive in NFC West. But I don't know what the Texans are doing. Between all their moves over the past few years, Bill O'Brien needs to be fired, or at least hire a GM because it can't do both.
Let me put some context to this. So the last time David Johnson had more than 1,000 yards rushing was in 2016. He had 1,239 yards. Since then, in 2017, he played one game. That's when he was injured the entire year. And then 2018, he played all 16 games, but he had 940 yards rushing, so just under 1,000. So he had a decent year. And then last year, he was obviously hit by the injury bug again. He played 13 games, but he only had 345 rushing yards, and he's due to make $10 million this year. Why Houston would ever give up their franchise-altering wide receiver, arguably the best in the NFL, and a fourth-round draft pick for another fourth-round draft pick.
And pay him $10 million a season.
I mean, unless there's more details that are coming out where David Johnson, Arizona's going to pay for 90% of David Johnson's $10 million. That's the only thing I can think of.
Even then, I don't like it.
Yeah, if you're Deshaun Watson right now,
Oh, I'm pissed.
how can you not be? It's
There's
unbelievable.
there's no direction to that franchise. They just gave up their third rounder for Duke Johnson, so they've already invested a third round draft pick into the running back position. Now they're
By the way, you get all these text messages. Turn your sound off.
sorry. It's my computer iMessages. I don't know what I'm doing here. But yeah, so they've already invested a third rounder into Duke Johnson. They've given up both their first round picks as part of that Dolphins trade with Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills. Did I send you this tweet earlier? I'm going to pull it right up in 1 second. So over the last year, they basically got Laramie Tunsil, Kenny Stills, and David Johnson, and a second and a third and 2 fourths. But they've given up 2 firsts, Clowney and Hopkins.
Yeah, it's insane.
It makes zero sense. There's no direction.
You just pray that Billy O'Brien has some sort of plan, because if he doesn't, I don't understand how they don't fire him after this season. If the Texans go 7-9, or even, you know what, even if they go 9-7, or what would it be now? 9-8,
Yeah,
10-7, whatever the hell the new CBA is.
Right.
If they get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs again, or even if they win their first round and lose to the divisional round, just like every other year, then what does it matter? Like, Billy O'Brien has proven once again that he's at best a mediocre head coach, and at best a below average GM who just they can't win. They're not going to win with Billy O'Brien. He should be fired. I hope he's fired. Oh, who knows?
As Chiefs and Pats fans, we should love this because, I mean, let's be real. The Texans, although I don't think they were on the level of the elite teams in the AFC, they were definitely in that second tier, and they were up and coming. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, 27, Deshaun Watson, 24 years old. They were a team that we should at least pay attention to as a possible threat if they got things going. But they just continue to make asinine moves, and I just don't see how they can compete with the top-level teams now.
Yeah, as a Patriots fan, I'm not too worried about them. I mean, I'm way more worried about Brady than I am the Texans, but we'll get to that in a second. All right, so what do you think about earlier in the day, we heard that Teddy Bridgewater was in talks to become the backup or potential starter over Mitch Trubisky over in Chicago. Those talks have since fallen through, apparently, which means that Teddy Bridgewater is still on the market. What are your thoughts about Teddy Bridgewater? Where do you think he will land, and should he have went to Chicago?
Yeah, it seemed like the teddy bear was going to be a real thing. It seemed like Teddy Bear was going to go to the Bears and he was going to be the starter. But for whatever reason, those talks stopped. I read that the Bears are looking at Foles or Andy Dalton now. So it seems like the Teddy Bear talks might be completely dead. I don't know where that leaves Teddy at this point. I thought the Bears were a good landing spot for him. I mean, if Dalton goes to Chicago, you have to almost think that Teddy could be a New England play if Brady doesn't sign there.
I don't think he's going to New England because I think that if the Patriots don't sign Brady, they're going to go cheap at the quarterback position, and Teddy Bridgewater won't be cheap.
Yeah, the Teddy deal to Chicago was rumored to be like $20 million, $21 million a year, so that's you're not saving money from Brady necessarily there. But I don't know, where else is there? I mean, you could say possibly Indianapolis, but if Phillip Rivers doesn't go there,
I feel like Rivers is probably going to go to Indianapolis. That's what we're hearing today, that Indianapolis is very interested in Rivers, and Rivers is obviously very interested in Indy. I also think I've heard that Teddy could go to Tampa Bay if Brady doesn't go to the Buccaneers. That could be a nice little plan B for them, which means Jameis Winston pretty much not returning to Tampa Bay, because the Buccaneers have already made it known that they're all in on Brady, and if they don't get Brady, they really are very interested in Teddy Bridgewater. So I doubt Jameis will come back to Tampa Bay.
Does that mean Jameis Winston's going to be a backup somewhere? I mean, the starting quarterback positions are starting to get few and far between, after the Tannehill deals and some of these other deals.
I could see Jameis either going to an organization to be a backup for a younger quarterback. Like, I could see him going to Chicago, backing up Mitch Trubisky. At least Chicago would be trying to light a fire under Mitch's ass. Saying, hey, listen, we brought in a quarterback to compete with you. So if you don't step up, while Jameis is, 50-50 of whether he's good or bad, at least he's a veteran quarterback who can at least start in the NFL. Or I could see Jameis going to, if Andy Dalton gets shipped out of Cincinnati, he could go to the Bengals, start there. No one gives a crap about him. He could go to any one of these teams that don't really have a starting quarterback, that are kind of in-betweeners. I'm trying to think of another team off the top of my head. Like maybe like what about Miami? You know,
Miami or the Chargers.
Yes, he doesn't really have a quarterback right now. They get someone in the draft, but probably isn't ready to start this year. So they get a veteran quarterback pretty much on the cheap like Jameis, who will keep them in somewhat contention.
I don't want to see the end of Jameis. Jameis is good TV. I mean, yeah, he threw a lot of picks, but he's one of 8 quarterbacks that's thrown for 5,000 yards in the season.
Every time he throws the ball, you're like, okay, is this going to be a pick six or is it going to be a 60-yard touchdown?
It's must-watch TV, so he needs to start somewhere.
I agree. All right, so moving on to Minnesota's. They locked up Kirk Cousins for an extra 2 years. I think it was a 2-year deal.
Why?
What are your thoughts about Kirk Cousins staying in Minnesota?
Meh. I mean, it doesn't do anything for me. It locks them into 9-7-1 or 10-7, whatever the records are going to be now. It locks them into 10-7 for the next 2-3 years. He's never going to be a Super Bowl winner, I don't think, and it's just a meh move. It reminds me of what the Chiefs did for years. We just stayed okay. You're never going to bottom out. You're never going to win at all. It's meh.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback. He'll never be one of the greats. He'll always be that consistent top 10 to 15 quarterback in the NFL who put up good stats. Honestly, I thought they got the best out of him this past year. He played well against New Orleans in the wild card round. He made that awesome pass to Thielen in overtime to put them to win the game, and then obviously threw the game-winning touchdown. But I think that's the best you're going to get out of Kirk Cousins, which is a guy who can put up good stats, and then you get in the playoffs, and you might win a round with him, maybe 2 if you're lucky. But I don't think the guy that you're ever going to win the Super Bowl with. And then staying with Minnesota, Stephon Diggs has put out a couple very interesting tweets this morning, which I'm trying to get up right now. Pretty much.
His Twitter's great.
Huh?
I said his Twitter's been great all offseason.
Yeah, so he put up the eyes emoji. He retweeted the headline about the DeAndre Hopkins trade with the eyes emoji. And then he said something about it's time for a fresh start. And then I'm hearing reports that potentially Seattle could be in on Stephon Diggs. I'm also hearing reports that Philadelphia, the Eagles, could be in on Stephon Diggs in terms of some sort of trade. Do you think Diggs will get traded? And if he does, where do you think he's going?
I think he has to get traded at this point. He's going to be a malcontent if he stays, and it's going to be no good in the locker room for that team at this point. He's wished his goodbye, and I think it's got to happen now. He's almost forcing the Vikings' hand. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping he goes to Seattle. I mean, the NFC West is shaping up to be the best top to bottom division in football, in my opinion. After some of these moves, I'd like to see it go there, and let's see how that division shakes out.
Yeah, I'd like to see him go to Seattle too. I've always liked Seattle. Plus, if you put him with Tyler Lockett and then DK Metcalf, and then you put Stephon Diggs in there, and you got Russell Wilson. Then all of a sudden, the NFC West, you have the 49ers, obviously Super Bowl contenders, maybe the best team in the NFC right now. And then you put Seattle in there, who are trying to upgrade their team because last year was pretty much Russell Wilson, and that was it. And
the Rams are a year away from the Super Bowl. It seems like forever ago now, but
yeah, I think Jared Goff is a horrible quarterback, but yes, you got to put him in there. I think, not horrible. I just think Jared Goff is overrated. I think
he's league average
at best. I think Sean McVay he's like Sean McVay's puppet. And then who's the 4th team in the NFC West?
The Cardinals now, old D-Hop. I mean, they're a team on the rise. Kenyon Drake looked awesome. Kyler Murray's going to get better in the second year.
Yeah.
Their defense can't get any worse than they were last year. So, I mean, they could be a surprise team to be a 500 team next year, potentially.
All right. Are there any other headlines that you want to talk about before I get to Brady?
I mean, there's a couple other big moves. I mean, the Hayden Hurst trade is interesting. So Austin Hooper signed a free agent deal, big free agent deal with the Browns, which gives the Browns a great skill team on paper. We'll see how that translates to the actual field. But then the Falcons actually, I think, made a nice trade with the Ravens. I think it's a win-win for both teams. The Ravens got good draft capital out of it. And Hayden Hurst is 2 years away from being a first-round pick. He has a lot of talent. He's dealt with some injuries. he was actually drafted to be their pass-catching tight end ahead of Mark Andrews, but Andrews was obviously slid into that role, so Hurst was expendable. And I think Hurst is a good cheap replacement for Hooper. Obviously, things are changing in Atlanta with Hooper gone and Devontae Freeman being cut, so they're trying to get an overhaul. But I think Hurst could have a sneaky good year in Atlanta in that system. And the Browns they need O-linemen, but they've got Landry and Beckham. Now they got Njoku and Hooper, Kareem Hunt, and Chubb. Baker has all the tools. We'll see how that shakes out. I still don't see the Browns being good, but they have every reason to be. But that's the big thing. Obviously, we've heard rumors of Todd Gurley being traded. That's kind of come up. Nothing's materialized there.
I want to take on Todd Gurley right now. He seems kind of washed up. It's tough, man. Once a running back hits 30, it's like a cliff for them.
Yeah, he's not even 30. He's young. Gurley's 27? He's young. He's just dealt with those injuries.
It's running backs, though. I listen. No offense to the position. I just think running backs are very interchangeable. I think the running game is mostly predicated on the offensive line. And these running backs, they just take a beating because, unfortunately, they're workhorses. So a guy like Gurley, who touches the ball however many hundreds of times, and, he has the yardage and the stats in the first couple of years, but then the body just starts breaking down because they take so many hits. And these guys aren't like linebackers, they're not 6'8", 250 pounds, they're considered smaller in the NFL. And so I've always just been a guy and also I'm a Patriots fan, so I've seen so many running backs come and go that I just feel like, unfortunately for Todd Gurley, I would never pay him. And his contract situation is, but if LA, I thought the Rams were stupid to even pay him. I think, I don't think Tennessee should pay Derrick Henry. Sorry, thank you very much.
How can you? If you look at a list of all the top 5 paid running backs in the league, all of them are terrible deals now in hindsight. And you can't pay Gurley. You can't trade for Gurley. The Texans trading for David Johnson on a big contract is crazy. That trade would have gotten vetoed in my fantasy football league. That's how lopsided it was.
Madden wouldn't have approved that trade. And yet somehow the Houston Texans were like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. We'll
keep our eyes peeled on the Gurley trade, and then obviously where Bridgewater and Nick Foles, how the Chicago quarterback situation ends up. Other than that, the other only a big deal was the Colts trading their first-round pick, number 13 overall, for DeForest Buckner. Interesting trade because the Colts, if they weren't going to get Rivers, were rumored to possibly take a young quarterback like the Oregon quarterback or Jordan Love from Utah State there. So obviously that shows me if they're trading pick 13 overall, they're going to go the veteran route, someone like Rivers.
Makes me think that they have Rivers in their pocket.
Right. But the Niners now have 2 first-round picks. We'll see what they do with it. And then a high one, number 13 overall. That's a great pick in this draft. Ooh. But DeForest Buckner is a stud talent. The Colts are obviously building in the trenches. Their O-line is unbelievable. They're working on their D-line by adding someone like that. So the Colts could be if they can get good quarterback play, they've got some pieces to be dangerous next year.
Yeah, it would be smart for the Colts to get Rivers, and it would be smart for Rivers to go to Indianapolis because they had a very good defense last year. They have some decent weapons on offense. They still have T.Y. Hilton, I believe, and then they had the 2 tight end set with Doyle and I think it was Brown.
Yeah.
And then they had that awesome running game because their offensive line is incredible, and they have Marlon Mack in the backfield with a couple other running backs. So you could put Phillip Rivers right in there with a good offensive line, good weapons, a good defense, a team that's ready to win. It makes sense, I think, for both Rivers and the Colts to come together. So from that trade, I'm assuming that they know Wednesday at 5 p.m. or whenever free agency starts, Phillip Rivers is going to be one of the first dominoes to fall.
Well, as a Chiefs fan, it makes me almost want to test the market with Chris Jones. I love Chris Jones. I think he's a huge part of our team. But if that's the market for a Pro Bowl defensive tackle, instead of paying him $20 million, you get a first-round pick in the teens. It's hard to say no to that.
Yeah, you got to explore it, obviously. Explore all options to better your team, especially when you have Patrick Mahomes, who's going to keep you in Super Bowl contention for the next 15 years, you lucky bastard. Let me move on to the person that has kept me in Super Bowl contention for the past 20 years and get to what I think is the biggest story in the NFL right now. Obviously, it has been all free agency, all offseason.
Let me cut you off right there. Have you lost more sleep over the coronavirus or Tom Brady's pending departure?
It's about equal right now. Uh, that's what I was telling you earlier. I found myself nauseous. I have a headache. I feel delusional, but I can't tell if it's because of coronavirus or the fact that the Patriots might lose out on Tom Brady, which is absurd because all offseason I've been hearing reports and they've coming true that the Patriots haven't even offered Brady a contract. From rumors that I've heard right now, I've only heard of one phone conversation between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, which was 2 weeks ago, which apparently did not go well because Belichick still acted as if Tom Brady was under his control in terms of contract, which Brady's saying, I'm a free agent. You need to woo me. You need to bring me back. And Belichick apparently is making it known that he's not going to do that. Like, if Brady wants to come back, then he can come back, but at the number I want to bring you back at, and the years that I deem you are worthy to be in this franchise. And it's so frustrating because what the Patriots have done, so they paid Devin McCourty. They gave Devin McCourty an upgrade in pay. I love Devin McCourty. He's a very good safety in this league, but should he be one of the highest paid safeties in the league? No. And as much as I love him, if we had to let him go, then you got to let him go. Instead, you give him 2 years at $23 million. So he's making $11.5 million per year. Then you picked up his brother's option for 2020, Jason McCourty, who is at best a second corner, most likely a third. He's also injury prone. He's making $5.5 million this year. Then you re-sign Matthew Slater, our special team captain, who I love Matthew Slater, but let's be honest, the team would not fall apart if we didn't re-sign him. You get 2 years at $5 million. And then you just put the franchise tag. The New England Patriots put the franchise tag on their left guard, Joe Thuney, which means Joe Thuney, our left guard, right now is expected to make close to $15 million this year, while you still have Tom Brady in free agency, and you haven't even given him a contract offer. And when we talked to you apparently on the phone, Belichick said that I made you the offer last August, which was such a horrible offer. I think it was like 1 year at like 15 mil that Brady said, no, I'm not taking this. And I also don't want you to control my future, which means I want it in writing that you can't franchise tag me. And that's where we are today. And it's unbelievable that ever since we lost to the Titans, this has just escalated to a point where I believe right now my gut is telling me that Tom Brady will not be playing for the New England Patriots this year because I think Tom is pissed at the Patriots, more specifically Belichick, because I think Tom was hoping that Belichick would say, okay, Tom, we want you here. I want you as my quarterback. You know, we can't give you as much money as you're hoping because we're pretty tight on the salary right now, but we're going to give you some weapons and I want you as our quarterback. From everything I'm hearing, that just hasn't happened. Belichick is business as usual. He's treating Tom as any other player, which I agree that Belichick, the coach, should treat Tom exactly like every other player. But Belichick, the GM, has to understand that you can't treat Tom Brady the same as you do Matthew Slater. It's just not the world we live in, nor should it be the world we live in when you have a quarterback who has helped you win 6 Super Bowl titles. And now we've been hearing all offseason that Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, is not going to step in because usually what happens is, you know, Belichick and Brady, they have like a good working relationship and not a good personal relationship. And Robert Kraft, the owner, has been the one who has stepped in, kind of been the middleman, you know, who's been like, okay, Tom, what do you want? Well, Bill, what are you willing to give up? So on and so forth. And Robert, from the beginning, has said, I'm not going to step in. This is Bill's decision. And it seems like right now, Bill does not want Tom Brady to come back.
No, I mean, it seems like Tom and Bill, I liken them to a nice, happy marriage that used to be happy. You know, maybe they were married for 20 years, had a couple nice kids together, had a lot of success, had the big house, the white picket fence, all of that. But they're going through some hard times lately. And, you know, maybe they need to go to marriage counseling. You know, Tom's the wife. You know, Tom just wants to feel wanted. But Bill's sitting there saying, I'm not changing, you know, and that's truly what it feels like. And Tom is obviously stepping his toes in free agency. It's the first time in his career he wants to be courted a little bit, and he's not getting that from Bill at all.
And you know what's shocking? He's not getting that around the NFL.
No.
Tennessee doesn't want him. I mean, that report has been out there for a while that Tennessee has been using Brady as leverage against Ryan Tannehill, and I didn't believe it.
Yeah, it looks like it was true.
It looks like it was true because they re-signed Tannehill. Now, for some reason, Vegas has just dropped off the map.
They did. I just saw a tweet that the Raiders say they're not totally out with Brady.
What does that even mean? You're not.
Just happened like two minutes ago, real time.
Why aren't the Raiders totally in on Brady? It makes no sense. You're opening up a new stadium. You're going into a new city. Don't you want Tom Brady to walk into that stadium wearing a Raiders uniform? If I'm Las Vegas, I'm saying, Tom, not only are we out, we're in. What do you want? What do we have to do to get you to come to Vegas? And for some reason, I feel like the only team in the NFL that's doing that right now are the Tampa Bay freaking Buccaneers. And it's mind-boggling to me because right now, I don't think the Raiders are going to extend themselves. The Chargers, I still hear they're in, but I'm not hearing reports that the Chargers are going to give Brady whatever they want. The only team I'm hearing that from are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where apparently they're all in. They're going to give him the money. They're going to give him the control. They're going to give him the weapons, which they already have. But the problem becomes, is Tom Brady really going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which we were talking earlier, I think you can't deny the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are probably one of the 3 worst NFL franchises in the NFL. It's probably them, the Jaguars, and the Bengals.
Yeah, you can't argue that. I think it would tarnish Tom's legacy if he goes there. I mean, at best, they're a 500 team. I don't think they do anything. He doesn't fit their play style at all. The success that the Bucs had last year were on deep balls to, Mike Evans and Godwin. Tom's not a deep ball guy anymore. It makes zero sense. There's no running game there. I really hope that doesn't happen. Just for everybody's sake, for the Patriots' sake, for Tom's sake, and for the NFL's sake. That's the least fun outcome of this entire saga.
It seems like Tom may go to Tampa Bay out of spite. Because I think here's the issue. All along, all offseason, Brady's camp has been saying one thing, which is there's a lot of teams out there that want him, that are willing to extend themselves, pay him, give him weapons, and give him a team that can win right now. And then there's the other camp, which is the Patriots camp, which have been saying all offseason that Tom's so-called teams that want him isn't as vast as Brady thinks it will be. Like, they don't think that there's that many teams that are going to extend themselves for Tom Brady. And it looks like right now the Patriots were right, which is mind-boggling to me. Why the Tennessee Titans would rather have Ryan Tannehill for like $63 million guaranteed over Tom Brady for the next 2 years. I understand that Tom Brady's 43, but his play hasn't really declined all that much. He wants to prove everybody wrong right now, especially if he goes to a new team. He's going to be rejuvenated. He's going to be rededicated to the craft. Like, he'll be at every offseason setting the tone. And it's just like, as a franchise, as an NFL team, you don't want that. You don't want the greatest quarterback to ever play the game to come into your facility to set the tone, not to mention for your fans to see him here number 12.
Why aren't the Colts in on him? Why are all these Colts and Phillip Rivers rumors happening? But Tom Brady, I mean, they're both old. Their arm isn't what it used to be. But Tom's just like a better version of Phil for his entire career. Why is Phil getting that love and Tom's not? It's really weird to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
There's only 2 things that really come to my mind. One, Brady might be asking for way too much. Maybe everything I've heard is that, like, it's not really as much of the money for Brady. It's more of the team around him. But maybe those reports are wrong. Maybe he's asking, like, no, I want 4 years, $100 million,
If it's the team around him, why are you picking Tampa Bay, though?
I mean, well, Tampa at least, like, here's the thing. Maybe Tampa's the only team who's willing to give him 4 years, $100 million.
Breaking news. Okay. Browns just signed tackle Jack Conklin, who's one of the best offensive tackles in the league. 3 years, $42 million. So that was their biggest need. I mean, they've broken the bank so far today on Hooper and Conklin, tight end and tackle. I mean, the Browns are going all in.
They're ready to go. Well, I mean, they should. I mean, after last year's disappointing season, they have to kind of have a turnaround season. The talent is there on the field. Their defense is good enough. Their offense, they have enough weapons. You got Baker Mayfield. You kind of need to turn that franchise around pretty quickly because they can't have another I know there's a 17-game season now, so they can't have like a 5-12 season. They need a winning record. They need to be in playoff contention. They need to try to win the AFC North. So it makes sense for the Browns to kind of quote unquote go all in right now, because if they have another losing season with personalities like Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. and all those guys, I could see that franchise, that whole like nucleus falling apart, and then them having to start all over again.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to make your heart skip a beat with breaking news during your Tom Brady talk. It's just Jack Conklin, buddy. No big deal.
So to wrap up my Brady thought, the whole point of this is honestly, it just doesn't feel like he's going back to New England unless he kind of like goes back begrudgingly. Like he goes back with low money, not that much guarantees in terms of his influence in the offense, which is something that he apparently wants, and the personnel around him. So,
and that doesn't even, if he goes back that way, that doesn't have to feel good either. I mean, if it's awkward, if there's a rift and he goes back, I mean, then it's just one 0-3 start away from imploding. I don't know what their beginning schedule is going to look like, but if it starts ugly, it could get ugly.
And plus, like, I know this is really bad for me to say because the Patriots went 12-4, but this year there was a little bit of that feeling where it just felt like Brady wasn't happy, and the offense, the defense, the team in general was just a little overrated, and they just faced crap in the beginning of the season, and then they finally started facing real competition, and the offense couldn't get on the same page, and the defense was overrated, and it just felt like it just didn't feel like they played good football, which obviously ended up turning to be true because they got beat at home by Tennessee in the wild card round. So I don't know. My gut tells me he's going to Tampa Bay right now, which is fucking horrendous, and it makes me gross. And the fact that there's so many NFL teams out there that are not pursuing Tom Brady makes me feel gross. And I just pray that over the next couple days on Wednesday that there is some sort of like coming to Jesus moment for Belichick and Brady, where we find out that they have had conversations and they've been talking, and Belichick wants Brady back and Brady wants to go back to New England, and they're going to work out a decent contract, and and then everything will be good to go. But I just don't see that happening, especially with the money they're spending. Where are they going to get this money from? They have like $9 million in salary cap.
Scary times for the old Patriots fan. But hey, at least you're not Texans fans today. Could be worse.
Sure, that could be worse. All right, cool. That'll wrap up our first sports talk.
Day one NFL free agency. Not quite over. We'll see what else happens. But
well, I think we should do this again when we find out where Brady goes, so we can have a full like half-hour conversation of the team that he goes to, the ramifications of the NFL. If he goes to Tampa Bay, what does that mean for New England? What does that mean for Tampa? What does that mean for Tom? If he comes back to New England, is it
Will you buy a Brady Buccaneers jersey?
Day one.
Here's a question. Hypothetical, if he goes to Tampa Bay and somehow the Bucs and the Patriots meet in the Super Bowl next year, who are you rooting for?
Well,
Brady or Bill?
Oh, God. Like, don't even put that conundrum in my mind. So many people ask me, like, are you more of a Tom Brady or are you more of a Patriots fan? And in my head, I'm like, listen, it's really hard for me to separate Brady and Belichick from the Patriots, Because
so who are you picking? Bucs or Pats? Answer now. That's how we're ending this.
Right now, I got to go with the Patriots because I hate the Buccaneers. I can't root for the Buccaneers. Like, I got to wait till I see Brady in that jersey before I can finally buy in and be like, okay, I guess, like, they're my second favorite team now. So right now I'm going with the Pats because, got to go with the blue and silver.
We'll see how you answer that once Tom leaves. Yeah. Signing off.
I see that beautiful face in red and gold or whatever their colors are down there. All right, brother. Good. Stay safe. Good talking, and talk to you soon.
See ya.